I speak to a lot of professionals who like their managers told them to stop posting on LinkedIn, and it's like they have no right to tell you that. And I know that in that position they'll be like, oh no, sorry, I'll take it down because they want the job. But me, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's no way I spend 80% of my time in this company making you guys money, and then the 20% where I'm like making my cheeky little content, you're like, no, dude, I'll quit. I would genuinely lose my job for that. Like I don't even care.
What's going on, people, and welcome back to the Blackprint, providing aspiring black entrepreneurs and business owners the blueprint to start your success story. I'm your host, Bainey, and today, guys, as always, joined by a very, very special guest. Today, ladies and gentlemen, I've got Stephen Adeoye in the building.
What's good, people? Thank you so much for having me.
Nah, bro, thank you very much for coming down, especially on it's a bank holiday Monday for transparency for the viewers and the listeners. And I really appreciate you coming down this afternoon, man.
Nah, I appreciate you having me here, man. Good to get some yap on.
I'll say it to you earlier, it's funny because obviously for people who may or may not be aware of your content, you're let's just say you speak very fast in your content. So as soon as I met you, I was like, I wonder if he speaks. And then, okay, so it makes sense.
Yeah. We speed up the content just a little bit. We call it. I always tell my editor, you need to add some crack to that. That's what we do. Yeah. It's our thing. So yeah, just try to people. You know how it is, man. But yeah,
I do. Especially as we were just saying about like the short form content and people keeping people's attention and stuff like that. I think it works. Listen, if you see my stuff from now on and it's spread up and it's got a sprinkle of crack in it, my job is in it.
Just a little bit.
But no, look, Stephen, thank you so much for coming down, as I say. And so for those who don't know who you are, what is it that you do?
Yes, so I am Stephen, and I run a marketing agency that helps employers hire people of color and then helps brands get attention online, basically. And basically just do that by like managing marketing budgets for organizations and like leveraging social media to get them the outcome of either hiring people of color or helping them basically like, sell their products or like their services, usually like related to like the line of like employer branding and like employers and like hiring and stuff like that, basically. And I've been doing that for about 3 years now, but prior to that I was working in finance for about 4 years.
Okay. So I guess this is the type of story that I like, where somebody's gone from one field into another field and potentially kind of, I guess, on the face of it, unrelated, if you like. So look, I'm interested and excited to dive into this. As I was explaining to you off air, the whole premise of the podcast and the Blackprint is really to get the stories of those who have done their own thing, to really inspire people who are kind of thinking or sitting on the fence or just haven't acted on something that they've got the idea on, right? And so let's take it back. So if I'm not mistaken, based on my research, you studied, don't tell me, you studied, let me refer to my notes here, because I've definitely got it written.
I'm thinking, what did I study like?
Banking and finance.
Yes.
There you go. And as you said, you were working in finance.
I was working in finance, yeah.
Okay. So I guess let's taking it back there. What inspired kind of I guess obviously we were just discussing you're Nigerian, I guess. Look, naturally. Bank out doctor. Like, there's no other choice. This is it. And again, this is why I love your story, because you've kind of gone from that what we expect or our parents expect us to do type of thing, and you've gone, you know what, I'm doing my own thing type of thing. Right?
Yeah.
So okay, so that's what inspired you to, or that's what kind of made your decision in terms of.
Yeah, I mean, transparently speaking, like my parents are like pretty supportive of like anything I do, as long as I'm happy, to be quite honest. So I think my parents know that whatever I do, I'm always gonna like try to be the best at it. Or whether I want to be a musician, whether I want to be an artist, they just know that I'm gonna put my best foot forward. So I think, naturally, I feel like as an African kid, like you're just on autopilot. The whole, from education, like all the way to like working, it's like, this is what I'm expected to do. But I never really felt that pressure, if I'm being quite honest. But yeah, I just felt like that was the natural path. And I went to study banking and finance, and it was just purely money motivation. It was like, okay, cool, what can I study to make more money? And it's like, yeah, cool, finance. And yeah, that was kind of like the motivation for doing that. And then like entrepreneurship, honestly, I very much just thought I was going to climb the corporate ladder and just like, because to me personally, I thought it was quite crazy that everyone's going to go quit their job to start a business, because as someone that's worked in corporate, I don't think it's that hard. I honestly don't think it's that hard. I feel like 90% of the jobs in corporate is just be good at emails, you know how to talk, and you know, just show a bit of effort. So to me, I was like, this is an easy jug. Like, I'm just gonna do this till further notice. But then obviously a couple of things happen, and then, you know, all of a sudden I'm an entrepreneur. But yeah, the motivation like was very much like I just wanted to make money, getting into the corporate world, and then life just kind of took a turn of its own.
I hear it. So we'll obviously come on to that, but just to kind of provide a bit of color to the listeners. So what kind of corporate roles did you have then?
Yeah, so I started off like working in compliance, and the motivation with getting into compliance is that when I studied banking and finance in my third year of uni, I came across this like module called corporate governance. And all I heard in that module was that you get to interact with people that are like CEOs. That's all I heard like in that module. So in my head, I was like, yep, this is what I'm going to go down, because I get to work with CEOs. And honestly, when I got into that role, I was working for like an American fintech firm. I was getting flown out to America every year. This was like my first graduate job. And I was literally, lo and behold, like working with like CEOs and stuff and C-suite execs as a grad. So that was like pretty cool. And then that role was split between Essex and London. And when lockdown kind of happened, I didn't like driving all the way to Essex all the time. It just didn't really make sense. So I ended up getting like a job in a consulting firm in London, and I sold my car. Like, it was closer, I was making more money. And then at that point, the consulting firm, it was an interesting and like different element to compliance. So like they had like investment operations as well and stuff like that. And that's kind of what introduced me to the world of like finance and investments. So I kind of went down that rabbit hole, worked in that consulting firm for a bit. And it's like, I got exposed to like the finance investment side of things. And I was like, yo, I want to go do what they're doing, because they're making real money. So I ended up moving to work in private equity. Then at that point was when, I don't want to say things went downhill, but then I was really busy. I didn't have time to do anything outside of work, because like it was just really intensive. So I moved away from private equity, found like a middle office role in asset management, and I was doing that role, getting paid like a lot of money. But for me, I felt really unfulfilled. And I remember like a lot of my friends at the time were like, bro, like you're not doing that much. Like you're literally just like getting paid. But to me, like the kind of person I am, I think especially context, when you come from consulting, the way consulting firms operate is that they are trying to maximize as much profit per head count, which means everything is super efficient. And I didn't realize this at the time until I went to go and work in the private equity firm that owned the consulting firm I was working for. And the reason I say this is because when I was working in a consulting firm, the COO, I had like 30 clients at one point that I was managing. Like I'm overworked. And I remember the COO was like, yeah, we don't have money. We're managing this, that, and third. But they were just saying that because no, consulting, it's very much efficiency. Like, you know what I mean? Because really and truly, I'm saying I'm overworked, but bro, you're doing it. You're doing the work. You're managing 30 clients. So moving to asset management, where I was working for like this big American company, there was like 30 people on my team. I was like, this is mad inefficient. Like I literally, like that was literally how my brain operated. I was like, I don't need to be here. And I could very much see that. I was like, all of you don't need to be here. Like, this is very silly. But because it's like an American firm, it's very bureaucratic, it's very bloated. There's people that are just getting paid to do nothing. To me, that was just like, I was like, nah, I can't do this. Do you know what I mean? So that was kind of like, you know, again, a bit of motivation for me thinking, nah, like I kind of want to go and do my own thing. But yeah, I hope that provides a bit of context and color to like my story.
Definitely. I appreciate that. What states were you flying to with the first job?
What status?
States.
Oh, states. So I went to New York for 1 week, and then went to Atlanta, and then went to Omaha. And I remember
Omaha.
Yeah, Omaha. Yeah, because it was like a payments company. So they had like a big factory in Omaha. Like it was like that's where like their foundation was kind of set.
Is that at mid states or something?
Yeah, it's like North America. Like, it's like in the middle of nowhere. It literally sounds like where it's from. Yeah. So I remember like when I applied for that job, I applied through Indeed. And you know how it is when you're in uni, you're just applying for jobs. I didn't even remember applying for the job. And I remember they called me and they were like, yeah, so you know, you're gonna have to be free for like 1 week for the corporate induction in America. I remember when they said that, I was like, yeah, sure. Like I was like, these scammers, bro. lo and behold, I go for an interview and I'm literally on a flight to America. Like,
Mad.
Like, so to me, that was like crazy. But yeah, that was a surreal experience. And I don't know, I think it was a very interesting introduction to the corporate world. And I feel like for anyone that kind of keeps up with my content on LinkedIn and stuff, a lot of people may call me like controversial because like I'm very like, I guess, I'm just very direct about like the fact that I feel like you can actually do anything you want, even as a black professional. But that's just because the introduction I had to the corporate world and stuff was just so phenomenal. And to me, I didn't feel like I was the most smartest person in the world. So I felt like if I could do it, very much anyone can do it. So that's kind of always been my attitude, navigating like every single space that I operate in to date.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I know you mentioned, obviously, you were kind of, you were not forced, but ultimately circumstances led you to starting your own thing. But during this, and forgive me, but how many years would you say you were in corporate for?
Yes, I was in corporate for 4 years.
Yeah.
To be precise, 4 years.
Yeah. And so during those 4 years, at any point were you thinking start my own business or anything like that?
Yes, I honestly was not like I said I wasn't an entrepreneur, but I have the typical story. I was selling food in school, but I was just like it was just a jug, just a little hustle. Do you know what I mean? Like, mum wasn't giving me that much pocket money, so I had to do that. But I remember when I went into the corporate world, my thought process of how I was going to gain financial independence was work in the corporate world, climb the corporate ladder, get into property, and just chill. That was as far as it went. And to me, I think, especially getting into the corporate world, I was saying earlier before we started recording, I had this perception that the corporate world was like suits and ties and da-da-da-da. Going to the corporate, I was like, nah, this is easy. Like, this is way too easy. Like, I literally just have to be likable, be decent at my job, and I could really kind of like navigate this space. So yeah, that was very much my plan. Climb the corporate ladder and get into property. But then what kind of started to, where the entrepreneurial bug started to kind of come into play was that I thought that my story, like of getting into the corporate world, I thought everyone graduated uni and just
landed a job.
I literally just thought everyone. So, and I remember talking to my friend, they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm still working the same." So I was like, "What?" And again, it was very much because I just thought, not that I'm not the smartest, but I didn't think it was that hard.
Yeah.
Like this whole process, I came out of uni with like 5 job offers. So to me, I was like, this is silly. So I started helping like my friends, just giving them my CV, like just basic stuff, right? And the payments firm I used to work for, they had like a call center, and in the call center it was majority like graduates that were there that didn't get jobs, and I was like, I just felt so wrong. Like, I'm at the top floor like working in the corporate office and all of them at the bottom. So I started like an initiative in a company to basically like get more people from the call center into the corporate jobs and stuff like that
Within the same business?
So much so that I was just like, no, we need to get you out. Like, we just need to get you a corporate job. So I was doing it for them to get jobs in there. But if there was no jobs there, they could get jobs. I was just trying to help people get jobs. Because I was like, there's no way you can get into 50K worth of debt and not get a job. So that's kind of where it started. And, but again, it very much wasn't a business. It was just literally me, Stephen, helping people. And I remember a girl, she invited me to come and feature on her YouTube channel. And she was very much ambitious. She like was talking about getting into the corporate world. And she just invited me to come and tell my story about how I got into the corporate world. And then she basically was like, after we stopped recording, she was telling me she had this idea about helping more people. And I was like, yo, I'm kind of thinking about doing the same thing. And that's where like the idea of starting it kind of came to be. And then eventually it got really serious, and I just got really hyper fixated on making it a thing. And then she just said she didn't want to do it anymore. And then when she said that, I was kind of like, well, I've started now. So then and the thing is, like, I got hyper fixated in the sense that I don't know why we did this, but we set up like a company account. Like it wasn't that deep though, because we weren't making money. But you know, like your first entrepreneurial thing, that you're just doing the most. So we set up like a business account, like set up like a company, and she was like, yeah, I don't want to do it no more. So I was like, well, we started now, and like we'd made a bunch of socials, made hype about it. So then that's kind of, I don't want to say I got stuck with it, but I was like, I'm here now. And then it kind of just started from there. But again, even when it started, it wasn't like okay, I'm going to quit my job to do this. It was very much like, I'm going to do this while I do my job. Because to me, it was interlinked. It's like, if anything, it validates the fact that, okay, I'm working in corporate, and this is kind of like a charity or thing to like help people get into corporate. And my validation is that, look, I'm working in corporate. That's very much like the beginning stages of it.
What was the girl's reason for not wanting to be involved?
Honestly, I feel like maybe I'm a bit intense. Like, this is just me again speculating, but she had her YouTube channel, and me, when I get invested in something, I'm like invested. So I guess like we had like different expectations, because I don't know. I think she saw this as like a play thing, whereas I was like,
no, we're making
I was
this work.
messaging her like at 10:30, like, yeah, so I thought of this thing, and she had like her YouTube channel, and I think that was kind of thriving, and I think she kind of wanted to be independent. So when she saw that I was like very intense, I think she just kind of said, yeah, you know what, like, bro, like, this is great, but you need to chill. And again, this is just me speculating, but this is kind of like what I thought, to be honest. And I'm still intense now. That's kind of how I am. Like, you know, all the people that work with me will know, like, I'm messaging you at stupid times of the night. I'm calling you whenever, and that's just because that's just the nature of like how I am, and like the way I plan to win.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's all I care about. I honestly just care about winning. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like, it couldn't be more clearer now, 3 years into business, that all of this stuff doesn't matter unless you win. Yeah. That's just what I think. But yeah.
It's funny because you're obviously talking about your experience of getting a graduate job, and my experience was relatively similar. If I tell you, right, Stephen, I applied. I won't say where. I'll tell you off air. But I applied for this role, right? I remember I had to do an online test. I did the online test on my Wi-Fi was bugging, right? So I couldn't even finish it. So I only got through maybe 75% of the way through. But I still managed to pass the test, right? But they emailed me and said, look, you've passed the test, but you've not come in like the something percentile to come forward for an assessment center for this particular role. Okay. However, we'll keep your CV on file. If anything comes up, and you know that generic chart, we'll keep your CV on file. If anything comes up in 9 months, we'll let you know, right? Bro, I'm chilling. I haven't even finished uni yet. I'm chilling. And I get an email. Oh, we're setting up this new division. Your profile's on file. Would you be interested? Bro, it literally said, if you are interested, don't reply to the email. So if you weren't interested, you had to reply to let them know you're not interested. If you are interested, no need to respond to the email. We'll be in touch. Bro, like 3 weeks later, I get another email. Congratulations, you've been offered this role.
Yeah,
bro, I wish I could make this up.
Magic.
Congratulations, you've been offered this role. Your start date is here. Come in on this date.
No interview, no nothing.
Bro, no interview, no nothing. All I did was an online assessment, which I passed but didn't pass.
That's
and
crazy.
Next minute, I'm getting a job.
Yeah,
Bear in mind as well, my starting salary was decent.
No way.
And it was such a chill job. Honestly, it was so chill. But yeah, I left after about a year to go into accounting and whatnot.
That's
because
crazy.
obviously, as we were talking about, the parents wanted me to do that. And yeah, so that.
And I feel like if you kind of like got introduced to the world of work that way, I don't know if you have a pessimistic or optimistic view on like jobs and the job market, but I think with me, just opportunity in general, I've always been a happy-go-lucky. Like, you know, we were talking about this earlier off cam, like, is like this space that we're operating in is really hard right now, and a lot of people would be disheartened about starting businesses, but me, I could have not be more optimistic. I'm like, yeah, let's get it. Like, do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's the attitude that I've just always had that allows me to kind of like just, you know, excel in like what I do. Do you know what I mean? Because like, what other choice do I have?
This is it.
But that's just why I think.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Now, what would you say then in terms of lessons that you learned in corporate as you were kind of going through there that maybe you have stuck with you? Because I know we were talking about not necessarily a quote, but something somebody said to you that stuck with you in one of your previous places, for example. But in those kind of lessons along the way that you kind of really hone and use and utilize in entrepreneurship now, what would some of those look like?
Yeah. A really specific one is just emails. And I get onto like my associate about the way we like type emails and communicate. And it seems really pedantic, but I'll tell you a story, which is a bit of a horror story, but also like a very pivotal learning point in my professional career. When I started in the consulting job, I had a manager, and at the time she was just a micromanaging, doing the most just on me, so much so, bro, that when this is crazy. I was writing emails to clients and stuff like that. She printed out my emails, marked, like, as in marked, like redlined, like, yeah, so you made this already, redlined it and showed me. But I almost broke down in tears. Like, I wish I was making this story up. She literally redlined everything, like, yeah, so you made this error here, you made this error here, I remember talking to the director, I was like, this is dumb, like, this, what the hell, like, I was so irritated.
Outrageous.
I was pissed off. However, that stuck with me. The first thing I did after that is
that all them papers in your bag?
No. You caught me. You caught me. But I remember when she did that, the first thing I did is I got Grammarly Premium.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never going to be in this situation again.
Yeah.
So like I I started like, you know, like Grammarly Premium, like signed up to that, like made sure that all my emails was pristine. But then over time, as I continued working with this woman, I started to realize that me being in her team, my work was a reflection of her.
Yeah.
So yes, like it was a bit OTT what she did, but this was from a place of like, bro, when they see you, they see me, and we have a standard to maintain. And after that incident, I ended up being so on it at work, just with the way I communicated and like working closely with her. I started to see like there was so many little nitty gritty things that she did, but can't lie, she was the best at the job.
Yeah.
She was literally the best at the job, and that stuck with me. And I literally had a post I was going to make the other day to be like, micromanagement actually works, because again, there's two types of micromanagement. There's micromanagement from a place where that manager is just being annoying, but then there's from a place of like, no, you're just a reflection of their team, and if you look bad, they look bad. And I feel like in hindsight, that was very much like, it was the latter. It was a thing where like she wanted to make sure that if I'm on her team, I'm like an A player. And eventually, like when I showed that I was an A player, she left me to my devices. Like, and honestly, I feel like that made me really excel. And it's like simple things as emails is so important in my opinion, because of like, people get lost in emails in terms of like back and forth and stuff like that. But when you're communicating with someone, the whole idea is that when you're communicating, you want to communicate everything in the most succinct way possible, where they just reply saying, yes, understood. And 9 times out of 10, whenever you're engaging in back and forth emails, because there's no clear communication there. So it's like, I always get onto my associate when we're like negotiating brand deals or speaking to clients. Like, I'm very pedantic. Like, no, say this here. Like, say this here. Okay, no, the way you want to say it. So, for example, a common email structure is the shit sandwich. So, if you ever want to deliver bad news, you don't just go guns blazing with delivering the bad news at the top of the email. What you want to do is you want to put nice bread at the top. So, like, nice little...
Hope you're well, had a lovely day.
Nice little something. You put the shit in the middle, which
Your
is
crap.
like... Yeah, which is the bad news. And then you put another, like, nice little sandwich at the end.
However, there's potential.
Exactly. Do you know what I mean? So, like, little things like that, I learned it from, like, that manager. And just, like, yeah, I would say, honestly... It seems like such a basic lesson, but I just feel like communicating via email is something that I really pride myself in doing really, really well. And I hold it to my heart. And I think it's very underrated. And yeah, a lot of people should learn how to write good emails, even when it comes to like generating business, like reaching out to clients, like trying to sign deals, all that kind of stuff. Email. Very, very important in my opinion. But yeah.
No, brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. So you've had this conversation with this girl about... Well, you're on her YouTube channel. You've had the conversation with her about you've both got a similar idea that you want to start something. Now, talk to me about like those beginning stages then, in terms of what were you guys doing up until the point that she was like, I don't want to be involved anymore?
So it was very much like just planning phases. I mean, for starters, like the business or the thing was called Graduate Helpline. So just so trivial.
By the way, I'm very sorry to cut you off there. I don't actually think we've said what the name of your...
Sorry, guys. My business is called Beyond Education. Yeah. We are a marketing agency that helps employers hire people of color and help brands stand out online. Yeah. Beyond Education.
Nice, there you go. But Graduate Helpline.
Yeah, so it was called Graduate Helpline at the time. And the whole idea was that we just wanted to help grads get jobs, like pretty much. So at the time, we were just kind of like mapping out services, doing a bunch of research, all these things that you do as when you want to start a business, which actually in hindsight, I genuinely think is bullshit, because I genuinely think if you want to start a business, you just have to find out if there's a market that'll pay for it. Honestly, everything else is irrelevant in my opinion. But at the time, like, you know, we're young, it's just, oh yeah, you do market research. So we're doing a lot of that. And, creating a social media account to kind of create buzz and stuff like that. So that's pretty much like what we're doing up until that point. And then I think, to be honest, I think, again, this was just due to my intensity. I was the one that went to go and set up like a company on company's house and just doing the most. And honestly, I think when I told her that, she was just kind of like, okay,
take it this far.
Yeah, like, calm down, bro. Like, you know what I mean? So I think that was pretty much where it was. And because we had already like been public facing, just from the socials. And again, it probably wasn't that deep, but in my head, I was like, oh my God, like, you know, I've committed to this thing. This is who I am now. Like, I don't know why, because no one was chasing me, but I don't know. I kind of ran with it. And I was excited as well, because it was like, I don't know, it just gave me something to really look forward to. I genuinely felt like I saw, like, to me, it was just like, I work in this corporate thing and like something that's supposed to be like a really good job, and other people like my peers aren't in this industry. This is silly to me. Like, do you know what I mean? This is a real problem. So I think for me, that was very much like why I just kind of like stuck with it and continued, even though she was like, oh, you know what, like, I'm going to chill.
Yeah. And so before even that, when you said that you just kind of, you saw the people in the call center kind of working, what was it about What was it about that made you even want to do something? Because you were there in your graduate job, cushy, okay, you were a couple floors above or wherever it was physically, but why was there something that irked you about that you felt you wanted to do something about it?
Yeah, I feel like, to be honest, in hindsight, if I was to answer this question, I'd say it's because like I really cared about helping people. But now, like in hindsight, I genuinely think I have a bit of like a hero, like savior complex. I feel like that translates into like relationships as well. But anyways, that's neither here or there. So I feel like, to be honest, at the time, I felt important. You know what I mean? I felt like like people really like were looking to me as like their savior. I remember like one girl in particular, she hated that call center. And I made it my life's mission to get her out of the call center. And now she started her career. She works in compliance and she literally just loves what she's doing, right? So I think, yeah, it was just stories like that. And genuinely, I just thought to myself, like, there's no way you are in 50k worth of debt and you're in this position. And I don't think I'm that smart. I don't think it's that deep. I remember like I even got my manager like at the company to speak to this girl. So I don't know, I think at the time it was very much like a mixture of, I don't think like you should be in this position, and very much like I just wanted to feel like I'm here to save you guys. And I've always felt like I had like a massive role in life to be like really important to like a group of people or stuff like that. That's just always been my attitude. Even when I said that, you know, my plan was very much like property. I remember like at work, they put us on like a project to talk about like, you know, what are your goals? And you would think that I would write goals related to like wanting to stay in the company. In the company thing being presented as a CEO, I wrote, I want to be the biggest property landlord in the UK because I want to solve homelessness. So again, there's always been that like complex of like, I just want to save and solve like crisis and da-da-da-da. So I feel like that was like pretty much like the motivation for doing that in a way. So yeah, a bit of ulterior motives, but at heart, like I did want to help people as well, but yeah.
Nah, good stuff. It's fair enough that you can admit to that, to be fair, about the hero complex. That's I've never had anyone vocalize that or admit that, so fair play to you. And how did you go about basically just even, because it's kind of, it's almost blowing my mind that you'll be within a business. You've obviously been hired to do, because what were you doing at the time? That was the...
So I think the reason why like I had so much time on my hands to like really fantasize about this is because I was on a graduate scheme. And I feel like on a graduate scheme, like, bro, you're not really doing that much. At least in my graduate scheme anyways, like, you know, I was honestly just socializing at work and doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. So for the most part, it was like, and I feel like the kind of personality I am, I feel like it's very easy for me to get away with not doing work at work. It's just about how you package it, how you report it. So yeah, like, you know, that was pretty much like the case. So I very much like had time on my hands. And I feel like what I did though is I tried to, when I started this initiative at work dedicated to helping people from the call center, it was very much linked to like this business that I was trying to start. So it was like, but then doing that was also linked to like my work as well, because like at work, you know, you have to have extracurriculars. It makes you look good. So it's almost as if like everything kind of just worked in my favor. Like my boss wouldn't get onto me if I didn't do work. If I told him, oh yeah, no, I'm working on the initiative with it. So, and then HR loved me as well. So it was just like, it was all just working in my favor. And I very much know how to kind of like do that. So yeah, at the time, like balancing it wasn't really that difficult. It kind of just worked hand in hand, to be honest. But yeah.
And how did you navigate it though, in terms of speaking to HR, speaking to your manager? How did you even position to them that I want to help these people move from the call center into corporate head office roles, if you like? Yeah,
so basically like it was a global company, and these global companies, like they always have like initiatives and stuff like that in some way, shape or form. And the initiative they had was something called YoPro, which is Young Professionals Network. So they had it in the US, but it hadn't been established in like the UK region. So I remember going down a rabbit hole and just kind of like finding out about it. And I was like, yep, we need to do it. And I really spearheaded it, right? And kind of established it. So it kind of had already existed, but then they just kind of, so we were like the first grads they actually hired as well, or like the second cohort of grads. So we kind of, in the UK. So we kind of just like fleshed it out. And I was really like very passionate about like bringing it to life. Like I was doing, I didn't need to do half of the stuff I was doing, honestly. Like I was doing the most, but it's because I genuinely cared. I had the hero complex. I wanted to say and like, honestly, transparently speaking, it gave me time from actually doing legitimate work. so yeah, it was kind of that. And I think I was the only black person on the graduate program. So it's very hard to not notice like the black kid that's like really vocal about doing this. Everyone knows me. I've always been that kind of person. I knew the receptionist, like I knew everyone. It's just how I am. And this is a big company, but it's like I get around. Like I'm just that kind of person. I think also working in compliance, because I told you, like, I got to work with like C-suites. I would get to go to like the board meetings, like, and sit with like the CEOs and like execs and stuff. So everybody knows me, like, do you know what I mean? So it was very easy for my profile to kind of get around. And I think I just always done that in like every single job I went to be honest. I think getting your profile out there is like really important. But then it can also go like both ways, because if you do something bad, then it's a bit techie. But yeah,
I was watching something recently that kind of alluded to the fact that the people that get the furthest in their careers aren't necessarily the best at what they do. They're just the most vocal and most visible.
Yeah, no, most definitely. Because I remember like, there's some certain companies that, you know, we were talking about that we've worked in. I remember like the people that were leading that organization, it wasn't because they were like necessarily good. They just really knew how to like have good chat, and navigate like certain spaces and stuff like that. And don't get twisted, like, you know, there is some element of competency that's needed, but for the most part, I genuinely feel like if you are able to talk the talk, like, you know, you're good. A perfect example, again, I've been looking into like Steve Jobs' story, and Steve Jobs is obviously a very competent man and whatnot, but he probably pioneered one of the most revolutionary companies in tech. It's not always not technical by any means necessary. He was literally just a good yapper and a good marketer. So much so that when they found out he wasn't technical and he got pushed out of the job, he managed to yap his way back in. And every exec or everyone that talks about Steve Jobs in the corporate world, they just said he had an aura about him and da-da-da-da. And it's just because he was like a really natural, good marketer and like talker. And I feel like, that like it takes you really far. And then if you add having competence, like, you're just gonna take over the world. So, do you know what I mean? So yeah,
you're flying. I guess people like Elon Musk come to mind as well. Hate him or love him, but he's got that kind of.
And he's technical as well. Do you know what I mean? So he's got the yap and he's technical. It's like, do you know what I mean? Crazy. So yeah,
it's mad. All right. So I'm just thinking, when this girl approached you to be on her YouTube channel. Was she working at the business?
No. So I don't even know what she was doing. I think she graduated and she was about to start like a corporate job or whatnot. But she was like kind of ahead of her time when it came to content. She had been, because this is like what, 2017, 2018, like, you know, content wasn't really a thing, but I think she had like 10k subscribers on YouTube. She had like been documenting her journey in uni, so it was like a really she was like ahead of her time when it came to content and stuff like that. So even though she wasn't working, it was kind of like her documenting her journey of, you know, transitioning from uni to coming to the corporate world and stuff like that. So how did she come across you? We went to uni together.
Oh, sorry. Okay, fine.
Yeah, sorry. So context. Yeah, we went to uni together. She was a year below me. But I was top of my class in uni. So I got a first class in uni and I was like really known. She got a first class in the same course, but a year below. So like our uni, like, you know, they kind of made a whole deal about it. So we kind of like knew each other in that respect. Like we had the same lecturer. Like that lecturer, like I was like really close to her. She was also close to her as well. So like naturally we were probably going to end up like bumping heads at some point and stuff like that. So she literally just reached out to me like, hey, went to the same uni, studied the same course, blah, blah, blah. I got first, you got first. Like, let's jump on my YouTube. So that was kind of how that came about. But yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, no, fine. Again, as well, when you were talking about kind of documenting her journey, do you know Ali Abdal?
Yeah.
On YouTube, that kind of comes to mind there.
Yeah. Literally, that was literally how she was. So yeah, she had been doing it from time. I was on YouTube as well, but I wasn't doing it from like look at me in uni. I was actually just a gym influencer. That's what I was doing. Like being naked on camera like a silly guy, like literally.
You could have been the UK Ashton Hall by now.
No, literally. But that's what I was doing at the time. So yeah, slightly different angle when it came to content. But I'd always been like very comfortable like yapping in front of the camera and stuff. Because even when I started working in the corporate world, Snapchat was big at the time. I just used to show people my life, like, and that was kind of like what I was doing. But again, I wasn't thinking about it from a content perspective. I was just showing people what I was doing. Yeah. Like literally, that was pretty much it. So yeah,
I think that's the best way to start when it comes to content anyway. If you just show whatever happens, you know, and it's like you never know what can come from it, right? Which is cool. And obviously you are very big in the content thing right now, so we'll obviously come on to that. But I'm curious to know kind of the early stages in terms of bringing on clients and boarding clients and really that transition from the work into sorry, even before we do that then, so sorry, just let's close the story on Graduate Helpline and so yeah, paint a picture for me as to kind of
before it no, for sure. So Graduate Helpline, she left and I just kind of like made it a thing, and Beyond Education was very much just going to be like we help people like get jobs, but there's no money behind it. It's just like social enterprise, charity, whatever. That was very much like the vibe. And, you know, it was kind of just struggling along. I was just, you know, helping people, making content. And it was very much like, you know, wherever I learned in my career, I basically like, you know, input that knowledge into like beyond education to like help people. I was creating resources and stuff like that. And where the boom really happened, similar to you, was lockdown. So lockdown, had time on my hands, work from home. I was starting to like do YouTube a lot as well. And I guess this kind of like the content stuff kind of crosses over as well. So when lockdown happened, I started making a lot more content. And I remember that time vividly. This is what happened. I was literally out, and a friend was like, "Oh, Corporate Steve." She literally just called me Corporate Steve. I'd never been called Corporate Steve in my life. She was like, "Oh, Corporate Steve, Corporate Steve." I literally went home, changed all my handles to Corporate Steve.
No way.
And I became Corporate Steve. Started making content just about like what I was doing, because it was lockdown. Like we had a lot of time on our hands. Like I remember, like, again, similar to you, like I would literally edit YouTube videos to like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. and then like sleep for 2 hours and like jump on my laptop. And that's what I was doing. So the content was kind of picking up, and that was really helping Beyond Education from like a profile perspective, in terms of people just associating me and Beyond Education. I learned every single skill in the book: how to edit. I built a website from scratch. I did a bunch of stuff. I kind of like recruited people to help me, but again, it was very much like on a free, like we weren't making money. It was just very much like, I'm going to create this resource hub and content to help people get jobs. And that's pretty much what it's going to be. So that's pretty much what it looked like through lockdown and post lockdown. Again, the plan was very much work in corporate, climb the corporate ladder, and this would just be like my brainchild, where it's like, you know, maybe if I become a CEO, it's like, oh, this is like a massive charity. And there are a lot of people in the corporate world that do that I've come across. Like I remember like the chief investment officer of, I think he's the chief investment officer of St. James Wealth now. He has like a similar thing called N Circle, and that's like his brainchild. He like helps people get jobs through that, but he very much like works in corporate in the highest level. So that was pretty much like the vibe. So that was the chapter from Graduate Helpline to Beyond Education. I think when she left, I changed it to Beyond Education.
Okay, so
it seemed like a cooler name. Changed it to Beyond Education and kind of just went from there. And then we're just kind of like carrying that on, very much just content, resource hub to help people. And then I don't know if you want me to touch on the story of like when it transitioned into an actual business, or like
100%, please do.
So whilst I was kind of like chugging along, making content and whatnot, I left IQEQ, and bless IQEQ, just mention the name, but they're like supportive. They were really supportive. Again, the kind of person I am, when I work in a company, everybody knows me. And not just because, I make an effort to raise my profile. I think IQEQ was a role where like I really matured as a professional. And when I really liked what I was doing at IQQ, so I got really good at it. Like I got really good at the job. So it's like, it's very hard to not notice the kid that literally has dreadlocks, is black.
I was literally going to ask you had dreadlocks back then as well.
Literally has dreadlocks, is black, does his job properly. So I knew the CEO and everything. They used to send my videos in company-wide emails for people to watch.
As in the videos you were making on the side?
Yeah, like the CEO would literally send it in an email.
No way.
Yeah, he was doing that. He would send it to all these exec team, all that kind of stuff.
That's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, so they were really supportive in that respect, and they gave me the space to really explore like all the stuff I was doing whilst working as well. And honestly, I really put in a shift in that job. Like I was really good. Like clients used to commend me and everything. So I was doing that, and then I wanted to make the career move to go into private equity, because I was like, there's no way like my clients are working in private equity and they're making all this money. Like I want to make the money as well. So I kind of like made that transition, and through serendipity, I managed to work for the private equity firm that owns IQEQ, just through like, again, networking and just like worming my way into certain situations. But then when I got into that role, no time to do anything, no time at all. Like there was just no time anymore. And it wasn't even because I was like busy. This was an internship, but the nature of private equity is that it's very hierarchical, and they have a very strict FaceTime culture. So coming off the back of lockdown, a lot of companies had kind of adopted this whole like hybrid work from home model. I was in the office 5 days a week, standard. You couldn't leave till the partner left, and these were like and these were like, it was unspoken rules. It wasn't like but you just know, like, you can't really be there. So it was very hard, and I still tried. Like I very much like, I would get him like 11 edit videos. I was doing everything, but I was dying. Like, do you know what I mean? It just wasn't sustainable. And I think at that point was the first time I started to feel like, yo, I'm not really liking corporate. This is crazy. Like my mental health, And mainly because it was like, I just didn't have time to like express myself creatively and really nurture this Beyond Education thing I'd been doing. But everything happens for a reason, because working in that private equity role blew me up on socials a lot.
Really?
Because again, not many people who look like me work in private equity.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I was literally like, welcome to a day in my life, like working for one of the biggest private equity firms in like the UK, dreadlocks, wearing Jordans. Everyone's like, you don't work in private equity. I'm like, trust me, I do. Like, you know what I'm saying? So that really kind of like blew me up a lot, and like my socials was growing and stuff like that. So that was a really, really good springboard. I ended up leaving that private equity firm to just find like a middle office role in asset management where it was like, okay, cool, I'm not doing that much work, but it's like I'm getting paid a lot kind of thing to just really kind of assess what I wanted to do. I can't lie to you though, like I'd kind of already started thinking, I think I'm going to leave the corporate world to go and do my own thing. It wasn't clear what the business would be, but I was very much having this thought, mainly because at the time I was like 25 or 26. I was like, what do I have to lose? Like, you know, I've really got nothing to lose. So anyways, I ended up moving to that asset management role, and I was just unfulfilled. I was like, this is silly. Like, do you know what I mean? I'm getting paid a lot of money, and I don't even know what I'm doing here. Like, this is so boring. During that time though, I kind of started to figure out to myself, okay, cool, what could a business look like beyond education? It's like, you know, I was so bored in that job. So I would do, I'd go into the office, I would go to the printer, get a bunch of papers.
And print emails.
No, not even print emails. Good one. I'd get a bunch of paper and I'll just be brainstorming like ideas for beyond education. That's all I did all day. And my manager would give me tasks, and I found ways to like do the task really quick by outsourcing it. That's all I'll say. But yes, so I found ways, and this was
Work smart, not hard.
This was pre ChatGPT. So yeah, that's what I was doing, just brainstorming different ideas. I was reaching out to a bunch of people, and the premise of what I was thinking was, okay, Stephen, you have an audience on social media. Yeah, you have these people that need jobs. You could advertise jobs on social media. Just basic. Do you know what I mean? That was very much where it was. Bear in mind, I'd not made a penny from this business. I probably spent a lot more money just creating a website and stuff like that. But I was very much like, this is the plan. Yeah. I was reaching out to a bunch of companies and just getting aired, and like things were going nowhere. But I was very much was like, I think after I realized that I didn't like that asset management job, I said to myself that when my probation comes, I can't accept the job. Thing is, me, I feel like naturally I'm just really good at jobs. So I knew I was going to pass my probation. Again, because when you work in consulting, you're working so many hours to such a high standard that honestly, I felt like everything was kind of easy. So yeah, I knew I was going to pass my probation, but I said, you know what, I can't say yes if they give me this job, because I know that if I stay in this job with the money I'm earning, within a year, I'll probably be earning a lot more and I'll get complacent. So I said, I need to tell them no. So even though there was no clear structure of what the business could be, I kind of said to myself, I'm going to quit and I'm going to use my savings and during that time figure it out. Anyways, November 30th, I handed my notice. Thought, oh my God, why are you leaving? I kid you not, bro. On the last day of the year, LinkedIn reached out to me and they became my first client, and they paid me a lot of money like to basically consult them on like growing their TikTok account in the UK. And we still work till this day. And yeah, that's kind of how like the business started. So a lot of yapping, it got there.
No,
but
that one went over my head and it took my hair with it. What on earth? So hold on. So you left. You made the decision that are you religious, by the way?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So you left your job 30th of November, handed in your notice.
Yeah, no.
30 days later, I'll call it 31, maybe or end of the year. You said.
End of the year.
LinkedIn reach out to you.
Yeah. And so I guess context as well. Like, to be honest, I'd gotten paid once from making content on social media, and this was like a year before.
Is that like a brand?
It was a brand deal, but it wasn't that much money. Yeah. And then after that, during the time where I was trying to figure out stuff, I got paid from like another brand as well. But it wasn't anything like, you wouldn't make that money and think, oh yeah, I'm gonna quit and start a business. It was not sustainable. And again, as someone that worked for a company that was buying and selling companies, this is not a sustainable business model. Do you know what I mean? Like, I very much know this. But in my head, I was like, I saved 10 grand, and I was like, I'm going to live off this 10 grand and see where this thing happens. You know what I'm trying to say? That was very much like the plan. But yeah, like last day of the year, LinkedIn reached out to me, and it was their agency. So a lot of these big brands, they work with like agencies basically for like their content and marketing. And they were like, yeah, so you know, we want you to help us like make videos for like our UK TikTok account. And they were like, oh, how much do you charge? And I said a number. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool. We want you to do this for 6 months, free videos. And I knew I said a number too low because they literally agreed. It was still a lot of money, but they agreed so quick. Yeah. And yeah, bro, like I was working with LinkedIn for 6 months. That was my first client. I shot a commercial for them. Wow. We still work till this day. Like, wow. And yeah, it was just like, what the hell?
Okay. So a million questions.
Yeah. Yes.
The first one I want to ask is, what am I going to ask? Bro, I've got so many questions in my head right
Yeah,
now.
I was like, I should have got to the point straight. I was literally rambling.
Okay, so from your content up until this point, what types of stuff were you posting then?
Yeah, so it was mainly just like career related content and just like I tell you what, I even missed a big part of the story. When I was working in private equity, the reason why it was like really hard as well was that, yeah, like I was working a lot of hours. When I handed in my notice in a private equity firm, all of a sudden they brought up this whole case about like me making content on social media. And I remember during my interview, I remember the partner said something that I actually just remembered in hindsight. He was like, we don't make a big dance around here. That's literally what he said to me. So that like private equity, especially this is like, it's a conservative industry, you know what I mean? And it's like, it's a French firm. Like they're very conservative, very like elusive. That's just the vibe, you know what I mean? I'm the only black kid in this firm as well. So yeah, they brought up like my socials. They didn't like it. They did not like me making content. And I was making content about careers. I was telling like story times. But again, I'm not silly. I wasn't spitting confidential information. I was using aliases and stuff like that, but they just didn't like that. But it didn't matter because I'd already left the company. So it was like, they were trying to tell me to take videos down and I was like, no. Like, and the thing is like, I think with me, I feel like I've always kind of like maybe challenged authority and just been rebellious, but mainly because like I don't want to say I know my rights because that sounds corny, but it's like, I remember that they were like, you can't film in the office because you're breaching security. And I was like, I'm literally filming in the corner of the office and there's a white background. Yeah. And I was like, you guys' address is online. What the hell are you talking about? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. But I know that if it was another like timid professional in that situation, because I know this because I speak to a lot of professionals who like their managers told them to stop posting on LinkedIn and it's like they have no right to tell you that. And I know that in that position they'll be like, oh no, sorry, I'll take it down because they want the job. But me, I'm like, in my head, I'm like, there's no way I spend 80% of my time in this company making you guys money, and then the 20% where I'm like making my cheeky little content, you're like, no, dude, I'll quit. I would genuinely lose my job for that. Like I don't even care.
Very different approach to IQ EQ.
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's why like, so like there was like if someone told me, oh yeah, you have to stop creating content or we'll take your job, I'd be like, yeah, sure, take it. That's kind of how I've always been. So anyways, yeah, that was like that was kind of like a little tiff, to be honest. But yeah, when I moved to the asset management firm, it was a big firm, but a lot of people started to know me. The content was really picking up and stuff, but
so people were knowing you from the content.
Yeah. That was like really foreign to me. Like, to be honest, like I still don't know how to act like when people recognize me and stuff. It's a bit weird, but yeah, like at work, like, and I remember like people would come to my desk because they were like interns in the company as well, and they would come to my desk and be like, oh my god, like Stephen, and my manager would just be looking like, why are they coming to you? And I'm like, I don't know. But yeah, like leading up to like the last day of the year, bro, I was just reaching out to companies trying to sell my idea of like what I think the business could be, but there was no traction, literally nothing. So
what were you pitching it as? Sorry.
So I was just like, there was so much stuff. Like, so at first I think I was like, I remember like going online and I saw that a lot of companies were advertising for like early careers managers and stuff like that. So I was like, again, so trivial now that I know the industry, right? I was like, oh, don't hire an early careers manager, just pay us, like, and we'll do it for you. Bearing in mind, I have no experience in recruitment, no experience in marketing, but I was like, we'll do it. So that was kind of the idea, like kind of like a recruitment consultancy, but a subscription model. Like I was just thinking of all this stuff. And I think when you work in an industry like private equity, you think you're smart and you know it all, mainly because like, you see the way like we assess and value companies and stuff like that. So you almost like simplify it too much. You're like, we just need to get recurring revenue and but it's like, it just doesn't work like that in reality. It just doesn't. So that was like pretty much what I was pitching, but I wasn't really getting nowhere. I wasn't really getting pitches like that, mainly because I'm splitting my time between working a full-time job and trying to do this. So it just wasn't really making sense the way it needed to make sense. So one thing I was really doing though is that I was consistent with content. I was making so much content, like literally just like a lot, and I was growing at a rapid rate. And I thought I was growing at a rapid rate, to be fair, but when LinkedIn reached out to me, I only had like 7,000 followers. But I think they very much just wanted me to like consult them. Like they wanted me to like basically just teach them what I was doing, kind of thing. So yeah, when that came through, I was gassed. I was like, yeah, this business thing's easy. Of course. Like, of course. And again, and I guess this is why like my attitude to like life has just been so happy-go-lucky. It just always works. So to me, I was like, yeah, no shit, Stephen. Of course you quit your job and on the last day, like you get, that's like, in my head, I was like, yeah, no shit. That's exactly how it's supposed to happen. So that was very much like my attitude. And then, that's kind of how we got to where we're at now in terms of first client. So I'll leave, you can ask me more questions, but yeah.
Fair. Given you were still even trying to work out yourself what services you're trying to provide, etc. And it's almost sounding like what you were even pitching in that time that you left your job, and even from before that you left your job, it kind of sounds like what you were pitching is different to what LinkedIn asked you to do.
It wasn't hitting. Like what I was trying to pitch wasn't hitting, but to me it was like, this company is going to pay me like a retainer for 6 months. I do not care. Like,
so did you not have like any imposter syndrome, anything like that, or you just like, I'll work it out?
Yeah, no, not really, because like what they had reached out to me for was something I'd already been doing, which is just making content. They were just like, we just want you to make content for our page.
Fair.
So to me it was like, yeah, sure, I do this. Like, you know what I mean? But to be honest, getting into that relationship, it taught me how to actually run like this type of business, because it wasn't as straightforward as I thought it was. I very much thought they were just wanting me to just send them videos every month. No, approvals, this, that, like it's a lot. I feel like it made me a better content creator and a better business owner, just in terms of how I manage stuff. But there was no imposter syndrome. I'm not gonna lie, and this is so. To be honest, it's really cheeky. Like, even in industry, I do not work in. I've never worked in recruitment and marketing a day in my life, but that's the company I run. No imposter syndrome whatsoever. Like, literally, I just don't think it's that hard. Like, I was like, we'll figure it out. Do you know what I mean? So that's kind of how I've always been. But there's been blips along the way, of course. But we'll figure it out. Do you know what I mean? So yeah.
No, I love that. And in terms of now, I'm thinking because there's a lot of, I guess, value in a lot of what you've just said there in terms of the content side of things, the trying to make sure you're on top of it even though you're working, the even setting up the business and figuring that out while you're working somewhere that not only was you working somewhere, but they were also just on top trying to just basically stop you and take you away from that type of thing. I'm just, if you can, just like in terms of advice for people out there who were kind of listening to this thinking, I'm working a job at the moment, I do want to do my own thing, I'm not sure what my boss is going to think about it, I'm not sure what the company is going to think about it, this content thing is long, trying to churn out content all the time, etc., etc. Like what would you say to the people listening who are kind of in that mind frame?
So I think we really just have to like take it a few steps back and really assess, like, why do you want to do this thing? I think is the most important thing, because assessing why you want to do this thing will like give you all the motivation you need to just do it, regardless of like everything that's happening, right? So I think for me, I just really wanted to express myself creatively and help people understand that they can get into these positions that I'm in, and that why was strong enough for me to like sleep for 4 hours and like make content and like be willing to get in trouble at work and this, that, and the third. So I think the why is really important, and I hate that I'm saying that because it just sounds so cliche, but it's like that's honestly what comes to my head first, like when you ask me that question. Then I think in terms of like, once you kind of figure out your why and you're like, okay, cool, like I actually want to do this kind of thing, naturally you'll figure out a way to like get stuff done. But in the context of like, working for a company and then very much like navigating if they're going to allow you and stuff like that, there's a couple things. Some of the advice I give, take it with a pinch of salt or take it at your own risk. But there are a couple of things. But I think from a sensible standpoint, check your contracts, company policies to just make sure that, whatever you're doing is not explicitly breaking any rules. Because if in your contract it says you cannot start another company, like it says you can't start another company. So, I don't know what you're doing there. Do you know what I mean? So I'd say that's that, like look into your contracts. But for the most part though, like most employment contracts, they would say something like, you have to make your best efforts to make sure that all your attention is like focused on thing, but they will never ever write explicitly in a contract like you can't do this, that, and that. It's just never that deep. So best efforts is really just make sure you're doing your job well. That's really what that means. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And as long as you don't make sure that anything you're doing outside where it affects your job, then you're good in that respect. Then I think the gray areas like social media, a lot of companies like try to. And again, the policies in these social media accounts, like policies, would never say something like you can't post content on social media. These companies don't own you. What you can't do is be posting stuff about your company, or like confidential information about your company. It's just literally not that deep. Like you can't do that. And even when it comes to like LinkedIn, for example, it's like the gray areas that are to a certain extent you represent your company on LinkedIn. But again, it just depends on what you're talking about. If you are not explicitly talking about confidential information in relation to your company, I'm not gonna lie to you, your company can't do anything to you. They're not allowed to. Do you know what I mean? And I know this because I've advised people in this predicament, and it's just usually certain managers just want to be micromanagers and like just want to do the most. But for the most part, I promise you, the exec of the company that's making 5 million a year does not care if some low level analyst is posting stuff on TikTok or LinkedIn. They just don't. So I would say like, it's just not really that deep. And like my premise with that being said is that it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission, because naturally if you go to your boss that naturally is just a micromanager and you say, oh, can I start my company and start making content, and they say no, it ends there. Whereas if you just do your thing and then they bring it up and you're like, oh yeah, no, but there's nothing in our company policy that says da 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 da, you have a stronger leg to stand on, and they're not going to sack you for doing that. Do you know what I'm trying to say? It's just really about knowing how to communicate and just like being straightforward about like, I'm not really breaking any rules. I'm doing good at my job. Or like, what are we really doing here? So that's kind of like the way I really would approach it, in my opinion. It's just about being diplomatic in your communication. And I'm not saying this on some be a rebel, but it's like, just let's actually just be guided here. Like, just it's not you're not disrupting anything. Like you're not breaking this $1 billion company because of your video that's getting like 1,000 views is doing anything. So that's just what I think in that respect. So that's kind of like my advice. But I think it just really starts with that why. Once you have that why, honestly, I promise you, all of that stuff you're gonna figure it out. You won't even care. Do you know what I mean? If it's strong enough. But yeah.
No, brilliant. Thanks for sharing that. Where did the notion or the elements of supporting Black ethnic minorities come into the equation then?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think naturally, to be honest, when we started and it was graduate helpline, I honestly just wanted to help everybody. Like I didn't really ascribe to this whole notion of like helping Black ethnic minorities, and it just wasn't really a thing to me, because in my head I was just like, oh, graduates generally are actually struggling. That was kind of like what I saw. But then I think as I started to work in more competitive industries, I started to realize that the numbers were dwindling. So like I wasn't really seeing a lot of people that looked like me. When I got into the consulting firm, like it was very, very sparse. When I went to private equity, it was just me. So I started to notice that this was an actual thing. Like, you know, there isn't that much people that look like me in these industries. And then transparently speaking, it was also a commercial opportunity in the sense that a lot of companies actually were struggling to get more Black, Asian and ethnic minorities into their jobs. So I think for me, it was like, okay, cool, this makes sense to be the focus because the community needs it, but then also these companies are willing to actually like, you know, fund something like this. So that was kind of like the thought process for why like I started doing that. But I guess like the reason why like some people kind of love and hate what I do, or like my approach to like helping the community, because I very much come from a place of like, what we're not going to do is like be victims or like, you know, use this as an excuse to not go after what we want. It's very much from we are competent, we are capable, but we have a system, at least in the Western world, where a lot of these companies are setting up initiatives to basically like give us a leg up. But with that being said, it's not a thing of like, oh no, we can't get these jobs, da, 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 da. Like, you know, I never ever empower the community from a place of like being a victim and stuff like that. It's very much like yes, these things exist, these barriers exist, but if we are capable and competent and with the infrastructure of all the support that exists to support us, we can very much get into these industries. And a lot of people on LinkedIn don't really like me for that, because I just be saying some of us, sometimes we use excuses, we play victim, and I'm just not.
So you're
really
saying people in the community?
Yeah. And I don't ascribe to that. And I guess I was a bit more, I want to say like aggressive with that standpoint and just hell bent on that in terms of the way I communicate it, without any sympathy for like, you know, how people feel. But in hindsight, I started to realize that because of I went to boarding school in Nige, I kind of missed a significant part or portion of like this whole like systemic racism and inequality. So like coming back to the UK, I just didn't really get it, because for the last 3 years, like where I was, we're all Black. And I don't know, I feel like that ignorance kind of helps me, because I honestly navigated the corporate world just going through everything. Like I don't remember doing a DEI program, none of that, because I didn't know I was at a disadvantage. So I very much like say to people, yes, objectively speaking, if you live in a Western world, well, like, it's inherent in the fabric of like this society, but it's like we can't harp on that because it's always going to exist. 400 years from now, there will still be systemic inequalities. Like that's just the reality. So what are we going to do? Just continue to complain about it? No, like what we have to do is like acknowledge it exists, but then just brush it to the side. It's like it's not that deep. So that's kind of the way I kind of approach it in that respect. But yeah.
So on that then, because well, obviously I'm in a similar space, and one thing that I keep reading about recently is, oh, this company's cutting back their DEI program, this company's cutting back their DEI program, this company, etc., for a plethora of reasons. how has that shaped kind of your thinking, your kind of plans going forward, or even the conversations that you're having with your clients and prospective clients?
Yes, that's a good question. So, I mean, luckily, like coming into this year, all my clients, they are still on their commitments. They actually increased their budgets with us this year, and like our revenue is like up 288% from last year. So like quite pleased about that, to be honest. But there's a couple of ways to look at this thing, in the sense that DEI has always been around. But no one ever called it DEI. We just called it hiring people into organizations if they're black and if they're from Asian ethnic minority backgrounds. It was never called DEI. It started to be called DEI when the George Floyd movement happened, and it was like heavily branded as we should do this to support the black community and so on and so forth. And then of course, like companies, you know, they want to show that they're supportive and this, that, and the third. So I say this to say, now we're in a shifting point where, like, you know, because of the political climate and things that are happening, everyone's moving away from, oh, it's not DEI anymore and this, that, and the third. But it's just going to evolve into something else, because inherently, people have always been hiring like black people and like Asian ethnic minority people into organizations. So what we have to do as practitioners in this space is just move with the times, right? So for me now, when I'm speaking to organizations, it's kind of like speaking their language. So they're like, yeah, you know, we're not really focused on DEI at the moment. Da, 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 da. Well, inherently what we do is we help you attract talent. Are you attracting talent? Yes or no? Do you want the talent to be diverse? Yes or no? You're not going to say no to that. Like, because then that's a different thing entirely. Do you know what I'm trying to say? So it's like, oh, so really and truly what you want to do is just make sure that your organization is inclusive. Yes. Great. Then you can work with us. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's just about like redefining what it is in the grand scheme of things, and then just moving with the time in that respect. Because naturally speaking, DEI or not, these companies, they want to hire diverse talent. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like they want to make sure that their organization is inclusive and reflective of the societies and the communities they're trying to serve. Especially like in finance, for example, investors, like, you know, they only want to work with certain companies that literally, like, you know, are diverse in background. Project companies, like consulting as well. It's like an actual thing. TFL recently turned down like a company because of they didn't have like certain like diversity requirements and stuff like that. So it's a thing. I think it's just, as practitioners in this space, we just have to kind of like evolve and move with the times. But then also there's a lot of companies like in the UK and just in the world. So it's like, it's finding the good ones as well. Do you know what I mean? So I'm fortunate to be in a position where the companies that I've worked with, they genuinely care about this. And I feel like in a certain way, like they actually care about me as well as a person and who I am. So I think they've backed me as well. And that really means a lot to me, to be quite honest. And I've never actually said that out loud, but yeah, like, you know, they really care about like my cause and like what I'm doing and stuff like that. So I think it's just finding the right companies to work with too.
Yeah. No, thanks for sharing that. Now, you mentioned earlier around when you were first starting out and you were reaching out to people, getting airtime. Obviously, LinkedIn came through at the end of the year, maybe a month or so later, which is brilliant. We were obviously talking off air beforehand how the space is tough to say the least right now.
Very tough, man.
I'm interested in how you navigated it initially. I know LinkedIn came through, and you mentioned you had another kind of brand deal maybe around that time. But aside from those, like how did you navigate that period, and how did you go into getting your first kind of client that wasn't maybe LinkedIn in that regard, and more so in line with kind of the business as it is, if you like, and how you navigate in the times now, as we said, obviously being kind of a tough economy right now?
Yeah, so I think my first year, honestly, it was really just beginner's luck. I'm not gonna lie, like, because the foundation of what I was doing was very much like, yo, like, I'm just having fun here. Like, I've literally just quit my business. I've literally quit my job. My first client is LinkedIn. I'm getting paid to like make content, just yap. And like, I'm just really trying a thing. That was very much like my first year. So my first year, I was very much in La La Land, and things were just happening in that respect. So like, you know, my old employer ended up coming to me. They were like, yeah, we want to run an internship program. I was like, yeah, we do that. They were like, yeah, this is the budget. I was like, yeah, that's exactly how much it is. You know, you know, that's what it was. That was like my second client. I remember, like, you know, one of the things that we used to do at Beyond Education, we used to do like a bunch of virtual events with professionals. So when we did those virtual events, I'd ask the professional, yo, can you introduce me to your company? That's how I got my third client. So yeah, like I was just doing a bunch of stuff, and like naturally in my first year it was really good. But what that meant was that going into my second year, I had very high expectations. I was like, yeah, if the first year's gone this well,
then light work, come on, man.
Yeah, and the second year wasn't like that. The second year I still made money, but it was like, it just wasn't as easy as I thought it would be. And it was just like really hard. And I got really confused about like what I was doing, how I was doing it. Like I doubted myself a lot of times. I wasn't really sure what I was doing anymore. And I was like, second year, honestly, like towards the end of the year, I really wanted to quit the business. I just really didn't like what I was doing anymore, which was weird because that's when we signed like our biggest client. Like we signed HSBC that year, but I was just like, I was so burnt out and tired. Like, you know, I just didn't really know what I was doing. So I had like a big reflection period at the end of the year just to kind of like really assess again why I'm doing this, what I like doing, and moving forward, like, you know, how to kind of like make sure that I continue this business. And I've not said this out loud, yeah, but I think when I started this business, I very much just cared about helping people get jobs. Like that was very much like the vibe. But the thing is, like, you start to realize that in business, really and truly, fundamentally, what you need to do is make money as a business, right? So naturally, all these things that you thought you cared about as to why you started the business, they fall to the wayside when you're not making money. And ultimately, when I got to the end of the year, I really had to sit down and say to myself, like, yo, this thing does not make sense if I'm not making money. That is just the reality of the situation. Yes, I care about helping people get jobs, but if we do not make money, this is silly.
Can't help people get jobs.
This is silly. And I think at that point, I was really kind of conflicted because I said, yo, that kind of sounds like I don't really care about helping people get jobs anymore. It sounds like I'm a sellout. All I care about is money. And that's when I started to think to myself, I need to shut this down because this is silly. But then I had a reflection. I said to myself, but nah, Stephen, if you really focus on just getting more clients, then naturally you'll make more money, but then more people will get jobs. So that was the flip in my head that, okay, cool. As I've evolved as an entrepreneur, it seems like my why has changed, but the foundation of like the why existing is still going to be working as long as I'm getting more clients. And that was the switch. So going into this year, I first of all asked all my clients for more money. So I was like, I need more money. That's number one. Number two, I outsourced every single thing in the business that I don't like doing anymore. Editing, speaking to clients on emails, just like every single thing, graphic design, maintaining the website, every single thing you can think of, I outsourced it. And that was the whole reason why I needed more money, right? And I sat down and I said, okay, Stephen, what do you like in this business? I like asking clients for money. You stack. I like asking the clients for money. I like that. And I also like making the business work. Like, do you know what I mean? So like, the essence of what we do is essentially marketing. I like being the brains behind marketing. I like clients coming to me with a problem like, hey, we are struggling to get X talent in this location. What do we do? I sit down and use my brain to figure out the best marketing solution and how to spend the money effectively to get the outcome. I like that. And then I also like just making the business a lot more efficient. So every single day, I'm always talking about automation, this, let's tweak that, da, 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 da. I like that. So I like being the brains behind the business and I like asking clients for money. Everything else, got rid of. I literally have someone that writes our newsletters. I have someone that searches memes for us. I have someone that like sends me like because I'm not on social media, contrary to popular belief. I don't use social media. So I have people that like literally send me like topics on what to do on social media. I go on social media every Friday just to see like what's going on. So I literally outsource every single thing. We're burning through a lot of cash, but the whole idea is that, okay, cool. If I do what I like, which is asking companies for more money, making this business as efficient as possible, and then making sure that the service we deliver works, then this thing should hopefully work out. So it's kind of like me backing myself. And that's kind of what, coming into this third year of business, that's what I've got really clear on. And yeah, I'm just very optimistic about the future in the sense that, okay, cool. If I like asking clients for money, it's not just about asking clients for money. It's about finding clients that want to work with us. Like I'm heavily involved in that. I like making content on LinkedIn because I know that the outcome off the back of that is like companies reaching out to me to want to work with me. I'm sending cold outreach every single day and doing all the stuff I need to do because again, I know that the outcome off the back of that is literally making money. And I've started to realize like that's kind of what I like. Do you know what I mean? And it's just a natural evolvement of me as an entrepreneur. Because I think I said to myself at the end of the year, I asked myself what life that I want for myself at the end of the year. And this was dark times. Like I was really going through it. I was really, really depressed. And one of the things I said to myself is I just never want to worry about money ever again. And not on I want to be a millionaire. It's just I don't want to have to worry about money. I want to have to look at my bank account and be thinking, oh my God, like, do you know what I mean? I want to basically creatively express myself. So I want to continue just making content and just like creatively expressing myself. And then number 3, I just want to contribute meaningfully towards like a business that actually works. So yeah, coming into this year, like I was like, okay, cool. We need to optimize my life towards that. So that was very much like the vibe. And that's how I'm navigating like 2025 in business. And God willing, it's going really well. And I'm very optimistic about this year being like a really big year for us. But yeah.
It's interesting what you're saying there. A lot of what you said there. So firstly, when you mentioned about how you got your second and third clients, I'm thinking message to people just in regards to just the impression that you leave on people, because obviously you clearly did a good job working at, I think you said it was IQ.
Yeah.
You obviously did a good job, had a good time there and whatnot, left on very good terms, and obviously they've ended up being a client of yours.
Yeah.
And then the third business, forgive me, how did you say you got them again?
Yeah, so like we were doing like virtual events, and then the professionals I'd ask them and they referred us as well and stuff like that.
So putting yourself out there, ultimately being the message in that one as well, and obviously overarching message of putting yourself out there through social media and stuff like that. So no, I do really like that. And no, I think a lot of what you've just said there as well is very powerful, because again, another thing about this podcast, it's not about glorifying entrepreneurship in the slightest. This message isn't to say the corporate world isn't for everyone. I mean, we both run businesses where we rely on people working on the corporate world.
Yeah,
right?
no, literally. Like
exactly. So this isn't for people to think that they need to leave their 9 to 5 and do their own thing. It's for those people who do have an idea and do want to pursue something of their own and whatnot. And so it's for them. However, what you've just kind of described there in terms of the times that you went through and stuff like that, I think is very powerful, because it just goes to show that it's not all easy, it's not all roses, despite the fact that you mentioned you had a great first year, everything kind of aligned itself and worked in your favor, and it was just as you were kind of saying, I mean, of course it's going to happen because it's Steve, right? And it's whatnot. I think that's very powerful how it's like, okay, even when things start that way, there will be times where things get, where the going gets tough type of thing. You're going to need to pick yourself up, and you're going to need to dig deeper within finding your why, as you touched on earlier, to be able to get through that period as well. And so I do thank you for sharing that. And I know you mentioned that was maybe some of the stuff you'd never said out loud before. So thank you for sharing with us. I guess on that then as well, do you have, or did you have, or should I say, did you or do you have like a support network that you go to? Because I feel like that's also another important thing as well. Because even with me at the moment, it's like, I've recently started kind of getting out the house a bit more and whatnot, and going and working with friends who have got businesses as well. We kind of just bounce off each other, bounce ideas and whatnot. But obviously, as you said, you were going through some tough times as well, soul searching, searching deep within and reflecting. But do you have kind of people that you speak to, and what's your thoughts on kind of a network of people that you can kind of bounce off?
Yeah. So during those times, like when I was really in dark times, because I just been working from like my childhood bedroom for the longest, and it was just wake up, work, like repeat. That's all I was doing, and I'll just go to the gym. But yeah, like I had like a lot of health issues as well, like last year, because I was overworking, and I'm weird. I'm not gonna lie. Like I'll be doing stuff like, if I'm working, I feel like I have to close the windows, and like there needs to be no light and Really? But then I ended up being like insufficiently low in like vitamin D. Like it was really bad. But I'm just weird like that. So I was doing all of that, and then I came across.
I saw a video of yours actually where you said you have to work in like an eerily silent room or something.
Yeah. It's boarding school. When you're in boarding school, like just you be doing weird stuff. But so yeah, during that time, I ended up meeting like one of my great friends, Faz, and he introduced me to this network of entrepreneurs, where it's basically like a network where like, they give you like co-working space and stuff like that, and you like pay monthly, but you get to meet other entrepreneurs as well.
Nice.
So through that, I met Faz, and then I met like our makeshift squad. We call each other the Yap Squad. So it's just because we never ever do work. We're just yapping. We never ever do work. So yeah, I met them, and that was really good because it was just really good to like finally meet a community of entrepreneurs, because I think all my friends work in the corporate world. So I felt so alienated. So meeting a bunch of people where I was like, oh no, these people actually like are entrepreneurs and they're crazy like me. They also quit their jobs too. That was like pretty cool. And a lot of people like some like literally Faz and the guys like, they're like building something crazy, and like, they're raising money, and like, a bunch of people are doing crazy stuff. So it was really cool to be part of that network and have that support group. But the thing is, the kind of person I am, I cycle in between like, being super extroverted and introverted. And right now the season I'm kind of like getting into is very much like a season of just like focus and just like intense, like, we need to like get it going. So right now I haven't really been to the office in a while, and that's nothing against like, the guys, but it's just like, this is the season I'm in now. Like right now it's like, heads down, and I need to get what I need to get done. So but having that network is super important, and being able to like lean on them in times of like, darkness and stuff like that, it's really important.
Yeah. And someone who obviously started as a solo entrepreneur, who was like the first person you brought on board, or who would you say is like your I guess, not not necessarily a person that you can't live without, but who's like the most impactful person?
I'm gonna say Demi. Demi is my Mrs. Get It Done. That's why I call her Mrs. Get It Done. So Demi's my associate, and the cool story about Demi is that she actually ended up securing an internship with one of our clients in 2023.
Nice.
And she ended up securing an internship again in 2024 with another client. And I remember, like, you know, she reached out to me, and you know, she's young, she's like 20, so she can't get a full-time role at the moment. So she just reached out to me and said, hey Stephen, by the way, like, you know, really love Beyond Education. Obviously I've secured opportunities through Beyond Education. I want to help you. Like, I will literally do anything for you, kind of thing. Now, me personally, I do not take free help. Everybody that works with me, I pay them, and I couldn't afford to pay at the time, so I said, yeah, sorry, like, you know, now's not the right time, kind of thing. And you know, it just is what it is, like, you know, I'm just not really there yet. So she was like, yeah, no problem, that's cool. So we kind of just stayed in touch, and I think eventually I kind of like started. And I think it's so weird because I actually did have money to pay her, but again, I only just grew into the stage of entrepreneurship where, like, I'm comfortable delegating. Back then, it's like I was just scared of losing money, and I didn't think I could delegate. Now, honestly, I feel like I've delegated like my whole life, like, you know what I mean? But back then, it was just I just didn't really get it.
Yeah.
So anyways, cool. So I ended up bringing Demi on board. She was just doing little admin bits and bobs for me here and there, but she is so proactive and she just knows how to get stuff done, like literally to the point where, like, I ended up creating like a work email for her. Now she talks to clients on my behalf, she negotiates brand deals for us, like everything. She does a bit of recruitment, she's literally doing everything. We literally just signed I can say it now, we just signed BBC. She's running like the campaign, she's the campaign manager for that, so it's like, you know, she's doing a lot. She planned events for us, and yeah, you know, she really earns her money, like, you know what I mean? And she just gets stuff done, and I'd say that's like that's my right hand person. Like, with her, like, without her, like, you know, things are a bit shaky. But yeah, but yeah.
Hey, shout out Demi.
Yeah, shout out Demi for real.
No, brilliant. And you mentioned obviously brand deals and stuff. I'm just curious, what's your kind of I guess advice or something, or for people to think about when it comes to brand deals, if they're kind of just starting out in the content creation space, they've got brands coming out to them, and even recently I've been seeing there's been a lot going on about kind of like influencer management and all this type of stuff, right? And I know there's people like Moyo on social media who kind of do their thing in terms of putting it out there, in terms of helping people. But what would you say kind of is something that you'd have people think about or to consider when it comes to brand deals? Yeah,
so it's so interesting because, like, last year I just like accidentally made money from like brands, like but it wasn't really like it wasn't like our core revenue driver, because it was very much like the agency. Coming into this year though, we are chasing all the brands. And the reason why that's the case is because, again, you know, we were talking about how, like, the space that we operate in right now, the market is very, very challenging, right? And it just takes long to like sign these deals sometimes. And cash flow is king in business. And what I notice is that whenever I work on brand deals, the money comes quicker.
Yeah.
So it helps with cash flow. But I think last year, I just didn't want to be branded as like a content creator. It was like, no, I'm a business owner. But like but like last year, I think I made like 5 to 7K from brand deals just from existing, not reaching out to brands. So I think coming into this year, I was like, no, we need to be intentional about this. There's so many elements of our brand that we can very much monetize. Now, for me personally, I think it really just boils down to, like, I guess, like the value that you're providing to brands. And that's like rooted in like your content pillars, right? Now, I hate the fact that I'm talking about this like some expert, because I really was not thinking about this until like 2 weeks ago. And it's just because, like, someone I was talking to, like, she's like really on it, like she's really methodical and structured in this approach. Like, so I thought about my content pillars and all the stuff I talk about. And for me, I talk about careers, obviously. I talk about corporate news. That's like a big thing I always talk about. And obviously I'm trying to talk more about like the inner workings of my business. So naturally, those 3 pillars, there's so many elements of different brands that can work with me in that respect. With the corporate news, these news outlets, with business, like all the business tools I use, and then with careers, obviously like employers and whatnot, right? So I think those pillars kind of define, like, okay, cool, the brands that I could potentially work with. Now, I guess the difference in advice that I would give versus what Moyo gives is that Moyo is on some, you know, yo, like, you know, do your content and people will reach out to you, let them reach out to you to work with you. Me personally, closed mouths don't get fed. Find all the brands you want to work with and reach out to them. Show them all the content you're making. Make free content for them, so that, for example, I'd be like the story I just did about Grammarly, I did that on purpose because I'm literally going to clip that clip and literally add them, and you know, that's kind of the whole idea behind it. So kind of like you want to give them proof of concept that, you know, the value, that you have a highly engaged audience and that there's like a fit there in that respect. And yeah, just actively, proactively reach out to them. So that's kind of what I'm doing. And it's so weird, like, honestly, God is great, man, because, you know, I was thinking about this like 2 weeks ago about like, okay, cool, how are we going to monetize like certain elements of like the brand? Like, you know, we have a newsletter with like 14K subscribers. Like there should be no reason why a brand shouldn't sponsor that every week. The minute I thought of that, I literally got an email from a brand literally reaching out to me saying, hey, like, you know, we'd like to do some stuff on socials. And that's literally like after I thought of the idea. So it's like, I personally just think be proactive, reach out to all these brands, but really get clear on like, you know, what your content pillars are to really kind of like define like what the value add would be in that respect, and then kind of like go from there. We can even do it with you right now, to be honest, like, because I think we can do it with you right now to figure out your content pillars and see what brands you can work with. Let's do it right this second on the pod. Right now. Let's go. Right now. So what kind of content do you like making?
Right. So I guess the podcast obviously is well, for the most part, the podcast at the moment anyway is really clips from the episodes. However, I do very much intend on expanding that out to what's the best way of explaining it? Expanding it out to like just it's gonna sound poor because I've not thought about it a lot, but general things that aspiring entrepreneurs would find useful, if that makes sense, right? And so I've even been thinking about things like, this doesn't necessarily answer your question, but it's just me thinking out loud, but I've even been thinking about things like, bro, getting on like not necessarily a psychologist, but like somebody of that ilk who I could speak to and talk about like why people have the fear of failure and why people, do you get what I mean? But because I can't think of a decent line of us, let me move on to the recruitment side of things, which would be things like obviously CV help, CV tips, interview tips, and then from the business perspective, how they can, I guess maybe similar to what you do.
Like, so I was literally gonna say, like, to be honest, like we're probably like similar in that same respect, where like I don't think it's far-fetched for like you to like work with brands like LinkedIn and stuff like that, probably from more of a experienced higher like perspective and stuff like that, basically. And then also like even like all your podcasting equipment, there should be no reason why all these cameras and all these people shouldn't be sponsoring you for all this tech. These are all the tech, all the mics and all the stuff you're using, the podcasting software, everything. So again, it's kind of like, you know, using that, like there's a lot of like infrastructure that goes behind like setting this up, do you know what I mean? And I think me this year, I'm not gonna lie, I'm I'm trying to be really proactive and like bringing that to the forefront. I'm a diehard Notion fan. I literally use Notion to run my whole business. There should be no reason why Notion shouldn't be giving me a little something, do you know what I mean? So it's like little things like that, to be honest. But yeah, I think that's the way I kind of like approach it. And then just find these people on LinkedIn and reach out to them. Like that's the beauty of LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can connect with anyone, like, and just reach out to them. And the thing with me, I am relentless when it comes to outreach, because, and some people may not agree with this, but me, I'll reach out to you until you tell me to F off. Because to me, it's like, if you don't tell me to F off, then So, because to me, it's like, I've sent you a connection request, you've accepted. For you to accept the connection request, you've seen my profile, you've seen what I do. So then when I send you a message and you don't reply,
I do find that a bit strange sometimes. Like, don't get me wrong, there's no obligation to reply, of course not. But like, if I've messaged, followed up, like, at least just say now's not the time.
No. I send memes. I'll send memes. I send videos, and then people end up responding. And I'll get in sales calls. So it's like it does work, kind of thing. So I think for me, it's like just be proactive on like the outreach, and it's like I think the reason why I'm also so relentless in outreach as well is because I genuinely feel like I have value to provide these brands. If I didn't feel like I had any value to think, I wouldn't be pestering you. I'm not trying to sell you some sleazy commission. It's like, no. I've seen your profile. You look like someone I help. You fit that mold. Like, I genuinely want to help you. So I'm going to pester you to get on this call until we kind of figure out. So that's kind of like my thing. But I'd say, top line advice is just be proactive and like, you know, work on reaching out to the brands you want to work with. And then, just continue to make your content.
Would you say there's kind of a level that you need to get to, or would you say people should start doing it from the jump?
Nah, people start doing it from jump. Just make good content. So I had 7K followers when LinkedIn reached out to me. Like literally, that's nothing. I was the smallest creator on like their program as well, and it paid me a decent money for a decent amount of time. So I don't think it's that deep. I think just, you know, be consistent in making content, and like, you know, just make sure that, you know, the content's really good. I even give another example as well, because you never know who's watching. A news channel reached out to me. This is crazy. A news channel reached out to me the other day saying that they're doing a show on people that got shipped back to Nigeria. This is literally what they said. They literally put shipped in quotation marks back to Nigeria. And they were like, we saw your video a while back when you made a video about this. I made that video 2 years ago.
No way.
It got like 2,000 views.
Yeah. And wow.
Are you
going on it?
Nah, so it ended up like we're going through negotiations and it ended up falling through, but it's like they still reached out off the back of that. It's like a video that I literally made like flippantly 2 years ago with no views. So again, it just goes to show like, just like continue to make content, but I can't stress enough, make sure the content is good. Make sure the content is good. And yeah, if you believe that you have value to provide these brands you're reaching out to, you just reach out to them, shoot your shot, like at them in the content that you make, like, do you know what I mean? Like, and just do that again and again and again, and just go from there.
Yeah, there's a guy on LinkedIn, Giuseppe Badi. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him.
I like Giuseppe's marketing. His marketing is good. His marketing is
very similar to what you're saying. Like his
marketing is hard. Like honestly, take a leaf from his book. Like he's got the time. Like I wish I was like him, because like that's how you go about it.
Yeah, no, I hear it. Wow. So what's next for Stephen? What's next for Beyond Education?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, so honestly, this year I feel like I finally got a handle on what this business thing actually is. And I feel like this is actually my first year in business. And yeah, like, I really just kind of want to like do everything fundamentally well. And I think for me, it's kind of like, starting to realize that, okay, cool, this is what I like, this is what I don't like, this is how to delegate effectively, and really just run a business properly. So I think, this is like my first year in doing it. And yeah, I think I've made a lot of money like over the last 3 years, but not necessarily like profit, because like I think the thing about like business is you learn a lot about yourself. You learn a lot about who you are, like, like fundamentally when things get tough. You learn that you may have like bad money habits, or like, you're not really good at like keeping a handle on things and So it's like the first 2 years of business, like, I did well, like, we helped our clients, we made a lot of money and stuff, but I wasn't necessarily like profitable, because like I wasn't really, I was just like happy-go-lucky. I'm here like, being an entrepreneur. Whereas like this year, I'm like, nah, bro. Like there should be no reason why I shouldn't make 100K and see that 100K like live. Like there should be no reason why I shouldn't do that. Do you know what I mean? And it's just because now I'm like really intently thinking about like the business and like really looking at every single aspect of it. So yeah, I think that's very much like, what I'm trying to do this year. But I want to preface this by saying I very much like come across like assured as I'm talking about this, but like 2 years ago I was down in the mud. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, I guess that's what entrepreneurship is about. Sometimes there's just so much uncertainty, and 1 minute like you're like optimistic about life, next minute you're like, oh my god. But it's like, I think I saw something the other day on TikTok that was so resonating. What a privilege it is to be challenged by something that you willingly put yourself in. So it's like, there's some people, they have to be entrepreneurs. I'm literally in a position where I just chose to do this. I could go back to work if I really wanted to. So for me, it's like, oh my God, this is a blessing. What the hell? Like, earlier this year, we're doing a campaign for a client, and they came to us and said, oh, we're not getting that much applications. And before I would have been really scared, but it's like, oh, this is great. A business challenge. Oh, wow. Time for me to really step up and see if what I do works. So it's a privilege to be in this position. And I think I'm really just like deep in that every single day. It's a privilege to have the influence that I have, to be able to make content and people ascribe to my content. Like, there are 14,000 people that give me their attention every single week on a newsletter. Like, what the actual hell? Like, that's crazy to me. So I think for me, it's just really expressing gratitude in that, and just understanding that everything I'm doing is a privilege. The highs, the lows, it's all part of it. And just really fundamentally trying to have fun with this thing, because I think in the last 2 years, like, I really took business too seriously, where I was like, oh my God, like, it's do or die. And like, I feel like as men as well, like, we really like glorify like hardship, but it's like, bro, like, something, just have fun with it, man. Just try and have fun with it. So that's kind of what I'm on this year. But yeah.
Nah, I hear it. I love that, man. What does success look like to you?
Oh, that's a good question. That is a good question. What success looks like to me. I'm trying to think of the answer I said on another podcast. Yeah, I'm be saying stuff. Success to me, I feel like success is really what you kind of make it. It's like what you kind of define it as. But I think for me, in this current chapter that I am in life, it's very much just like keeping the promises I made to myself. It's keeping the promises I've made to myself, and just really, really, really just trying to exceed my potential. And because that's my biggest fear. My biggest fear is just not living up to my potential, exceeding my potential. So I think for me, success is like, looking back and just being like, yeah, like, bro, we left everything on the line. And I think in my second year of business, I felt like, nah, bro, you didn't really do that much. This year, I literally want to get to the end of 2025 knowing that, nah, bro, like you did everything.
Yeah.
So this week, I'm downloading Cognism. I'm going to start doing cold calls because it's like, bro, like there's no, the business is hard, companies not spending money, because their companies spending money. There's people in this industry making hella money. I mean, there's someone on the other side of the world thinking this business is easy. Do you know what I'm trying to say? And they don't have two heads. So I think for me, it's just like success for me is just like exceeding my potential and looking back and just being like, yeah, I left no stones unturned. Like I really did that. But again, as I said, success evolves as you kind of like grow and stuff like that. Because if you were to ask me that question 2 years ago, 3 years ago, success was climbing the corporate ladder. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I think that's pretty much what it is. But yeah.
Can you share what some of the promises you made to yourself are?
That was a good one. Yes, I think for me, it's rooted back in like the reflections I had from like, you know, when I wanted to quit the business. So I just said to myself, like, I don't want to operate from a place of anxiety anymore. Last year, oh my God, I was so anxious, like crazy. It was ridiculous. Like it was, bruh, like my heart used to beat like it was so bad. I would wake up every morning and my heart's beating.
Swear.
Bruh, I ain't even got a mortgage. What are we talking about here?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, this is crazy. Do you know what I mean? And I said to myself, coming into this year, no, can't do that. So I remember this year when the client came to us, literally this is what happened. The client came to us. They were like, yeah, Stephen, so, you know, we haven't got that much applications this year. Last year we got like double. Not sure what's going on. Sat down and said, great, a business problem. Went back to the client. I was like, yeah, so we're probably going to have to extend applications. Gave them a reason as to why we think the applications didn't come through, and this is what we're gonna do. They were like, okay, cool, sounds like a plan. I mean, this, like, let's just all calm down. Do you know what I mean? Like, why are we so anxious for? This is business. And I always tell my associate, I was like, Demi, we make content and plan events for a living. We're not saving people's lives. Yeah. Calm down. Like, there's literally no need to be stressed. I remember we did an event in Manchester, and we'd never done an event in Manchester before. You know how business is. I was like to the client, yeah, we do events in Manchester. Don't worry, we're gonna do it. They gave us the money. I did all my marketing, I did everything. Demi was like, oh my God, I'm scared. People might not come. I was like, Demi, but if they didn't come, like, where do we go from here? Like, it's like, we tried. Do you know what I mean? Anyways, the event ended up being a success. And it's like, you know, that's just what it is. I think that's like a promise I made to myself this year. Like, I just don't want to operate from a place of anxiety. And I really just want to have fun with business. Like, this is, like, business is fundamentally, this is actually fun. Like, what the hell? Like, I literally created stuff out of thin air. Like I literally created a 9 to 5 for myself out of thin air. That's crazy to me. I literally make content for a living. That's fun. It's not that deep. So to me, that's like, that's the way I see it as. And I think it's honestly rooted in the fact that I really sat down and said to myself, what do I enjoy from this business? Because I think business holistically, there's so much stuff that you do that you don't enjoy. Like, you know what we're talking about, like editing, all that stuff, you don't enjoy it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Obviously you do it for a certain point, but then eventually when you can get rid of it and you have the privilege to get rid of it, you get rid of it. So I think for me now, it's like, if I'm working on stuff that I enjoy, like, bro, life is good. I love thinking about new ways to like ask clients for money or like commercialize an offer. Like I like that. It's like, bro, like, you know what I mean? So I think that's, the promises I made to myself is very much like, you know, don't operate from a place of anxiety and just have fun with this thing till further notice. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to be on this year. Yeah. But yeah.
And let's beyond education, because while we're operating in similar spaces, I feel like slightly different business models in the sense that I guess mine is maybe more when people think recruitment, that's, you have a business that needed candidates, you go and find the candidates, you marry the two together. Is your business model more so driving applications, self-applications to a business?
So that's a great question. And yeah, you've kind of got it right, to be honest. But there's, so I'll give you like my whole business model and like the blueprint, right? So we very much like do that. So the way it works is that organizations would give us like a yearly marketing budget, and we would use that marketing budget to basically like drive applications for people to apply for their jobs, like, you know, through like social media and through other like different marketing avenues. That's pretty much what we do. So that's one element of the business. And typically like their hiring objectives is usually geared towards, we want to hire people of color, like, right? So we figure out how to like basically do that, like, you know, through paid ads, through like social media marketing, influencer marketing and stuff like that. Then another element of the business is what I've been talking about now in terms of the brand deals. So again, I was very much thinking of the brand deals as, no, that's not really the agency. That's like Stephen, the content creator. But really and truly, it's an agency service. When clients sign the paper, it's actually beyond education, because all the business is through beyond education. So really and truly, that's just a secondary agency service. As an agency, we have access to like all these social media channels that have a significant following. you basically want to advertise on those social channels. So it's like, you know, you pay us to do that. So that's secondary. Then the third element to the business, which is something that I only do for one client that they pay us a lot, and then my old employer, is early career recruitment. So like they have like an internship program that they want to establish. We don't do recruitment, like honestly, because I had a horror story last year and I was like, yep, this is, don't want to do that, not a fan. But they pay us a decent amount of money to do it, and I figured out a way to basically this year, and that's why I shout out to Demi, I figured out a way to like really like do it without me being involved. And again, all I really do is what I like doing, which is the marketing element. But that's not really a service that we promote. Ultimately, the whole idea is that we help employers hire people of color and help brands get attention online. So primary service being drive applications to your roles independently, and secondary service being brands that want to like advertise whatever they want to advertise, they can use our social channels to do it. So yeah, I'm kind of clear on that in that respect, and I'm really just trying to like run that up till further notice. So yeah, that's the plan.
Nice, thanks for clarifying. Now we're almost done.
Of course,
you've been very generous with your time, so I appreciate it.
Nah, it's all good. I'm enjoying the conversation.
No, I appreciate that. You arrived here with a book in hand. I always ask my guests book recommendations, or even if it's other podcasts or other kind of people that they think they should follow, obviously thinking about the audience of this podcast being aspiring entrepreneurs and business owners. What book would you recommend to people to read?
That's a good question. Can I be really, really annoying?
What are you going to say?
I want to get my phone because it's literally got all my recommendations. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
That's all good. Well, this would be a great place to plug my sponsors, but
soon. Hey, maybe we'll sponsor the podcast. Maybe Beyond Education will sponsor the podcast. So I have this app called Goodreads, and that's where like I log. So you can follow me on Goodreads, Corporate Steve. If you download the Goodreads app, you can see all the books I'm reading.
Every time I finish a book on Kindle, it asks me to rate it on Goodreads.
Yeah. Because I think they're all linked. Like Amazon owns Goodreads now. So I think it's like all linked. But yeah, I have the list of books. I've really been into autobiographies recently. So again, this is not my recommendation, but like just shameless plug. So I read Steve Jobs' one. There's like a really good biographer, Walter Isaacson. He's the one that did the autobiography for Steve Jobs, and he did it for Elon Musk. And this is not like a writing it from a distance. He lived with them for like yeah. So really good books. And then I read one about Bill Gates recently. Called Source Code. But if I just go to the ones I've read so far, there's one that comes to my head. I don't know, I guess it would be great to... Because there's a book that I read when I started my entrepreneurial journey that really started everything. And I don't know, maybe that would be like relevant for your audience. But that book is called Millionaire Minds by T. Harv Eker.
Okay.
And that book was like, when I read it, I wanted to take over the world. Like when I read it, it was like a really good book. So
Millionaire Minds, yeah?
Yeah, Millionaire Minds, yeah.
That's someone I've heard of actually. So
so it was a really good book. But okay, cool.
Here we go.
I'll give you a couple. Okay, so this is really hard. There's just so many good ones. Okay, cool. The Obstacle is the Way.
The Obstacle is the Way.
By Ryan Holiday. That's a really good book in just embracing challenges and understanding that like it's okay. Like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Like life is supposed to be hard.
Yeah.
That's really good. It's All in Your Head by, I don't know if you know the American rapper called Russ.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wrote the book.
I think I've read that one actually. Is that the yellow cover one?
Yeah,
I've actually read that. Yeah, that's quite a short read as well, which is quite good. Yeah.
It's a really, really short read. And what I like to do as well when I read books is I like to listen to it and read it at the same time. Really, really good. Obstacle is the Way. It's All in Your Head. And then third one. This one you wouldn't think it. And honestly, the title is so cringe, but it's actually a good book. Happy Sexy Millionaire.
Oh, Stephen Bartlett.
Yeah, by Steve Bartlett.
Yeah.
I don't know why I bought that book, but I remember because these books, the reason why I'm really passionate about these recommendations because I read these at a time when I needed to read them. You know what I'm trying to say? So The Obstacle is the Way. I was going through a lot of challenges. When I read that book, It's All in Your Head was just when I was about to like start the entrepreneurship stuff. So I was like so confused and read that book. And then Happy Sexy Millionaire, again, this was very much when I was working in the corporate world and I was having like a quarter life crisis thinking, what am I doing? Da, da, da. And that book basically talks about like you're exactly what you need to be. Like everything you're doing right now is exactly what it's supposed to be. So I think, yeah, those books are like really, really topical for like the seasons and like periods of life that you're in my opinion. But yeah, if you go on my Goodreads Corporate Steve, you can see all the books I'm reading and just like, you know, have your pick. But those are like my top 3.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right. Last 2 things.
Yeah, of course.
What's I mean, you've sprinkled a lot of gems in there. As I say, you've been very generous with your time. You've shared a lot with us today. What would be, if people were to take away one thing from this conversation, what would that one thing be that you would tell people to take away?
You can actually do anything you want. Like anything you want. Like, yeah. The only person stopping you is you. You can actually do anything you want. Doesn't matter how many barriers exist. Doesn't matter, like, you know, what things, like, you know, have hindered people from like starting it. You can do anything you want. Doesn't matter if you don't have any experience. You can do anything you want. And that's like, someone was asking me the other day, like, what core values do you want people to take from, like, you know, the content you make and stuff like that? It's like, yeah, you can do anything you want, like anything, like literally. And I try to live by example in that respect. Do you know what I mean? Like, went to the corporate world, done it, made a lot of money, done it. Now I'm trying to do this business thing. It's going well. I'm doing it. It's like, you can do anything you want. And yeah, I just want people to like really understand that, because I think the Western world, especially for people of color, it really just like portrays this idea that we're really limited. But it's like, bro, like there's so many successful people of color doing great things. And to me, it's like, if I've seen that one person is successful in the competitive space that I'm trying to get into, that's all the validation I need. And if I don't see anyone in that space, I guess I'm going to be the first person. But I want people to understand this in the heart of hearts. Like, there's nothing you can't do. Like, I promise you. But yeah,
I think that's probably one of the best messages, particularly for this podcast, that you could have portrayed. So I appreciate that greatly. Thank you. Before I go into the last bit, actually, what's the? I feel like your hat means something.
This?
Yeah, it says creating on it. I feel like it means something.
How do you know? Hey, listen, hey, one of the things I'm doing as well, I'm launching a merch hat line.
I swear.
Yeah.
Oh, is that one of them?
Yeah. So this one. So I got this idea from this hat that I started.
Okay.
But yeah. So I love creating. Like, it's just what I love doing. And I have like a few, there's a couple of sayings that I always say. So I basically want to like just like print them on a hat basically. And something I like doing, it's like my signature now. It's really weird. Like, I do it in like every single message I send to like clients. I always add a smiley face. Okay. But like, not like a emoji, like, you know, just the old school
dot,
smiley.
Just a dot and a open bracket or closed bracket.
Yeah, literally. When I send like an email, literally under email subject, always a smiley face. It's like my thing. So I have like a couple of sayings that I usually say, and I'm gonna add like a smiley face, and that's like merch that I'm basically gonna release. So like, I always say, like, everybody knows me, I always say lock in every single time. It's like my biggest thing. So yeah, I'm basically trying to release like merch basically to like, indicate like all the different things I say. And yeah, creating is like a big thing for me as well.
Nice.
I want to have one that says building, but yeah, just all these different like quotables. And just, yeah, really kind of like, you know, get my community to like really like, you know, resonate with me a lot more and really build that community and stuff like that. Because again, I think I was really sitting down and I was reflecting. I was thinking, yo, like, I actually take for granted like all these followers and stuff like that. They're actually people that like turn up to my content, watch my stuff, and like are really happy with the stuff I'm doing. So, you know, I think for me, like, I really want to cultivate that community a lot more and get close to them. So yeah, that's what the hat means in that respect. But yeah,
nice. I really didn't expect that to be the answer, but fair enough. I just, because I know if someone come in a hat that says creating on it, I know, like,
I wear this hat everywhere. I wear this hat to the gym. Like, I wear it everywhere. That's a good observation. That's crazy.
Nice.
Like,
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. No, thanks for sharing that though. We'll be looking out for that.
We got you.
Right, I just wanted to quickly do some quick fire questions.
Sure.
Right. Well, to be fair, the very first question you probably answered already was, what's one book that changed your mindset? But yeah, you've probably touched on that already. So, morning person or night owl?
Morning.
CV or LinkedIn? Which matters more?
Oof. CV.
If you weren't running beyond education, what would you be doing?
In recent times, probably working in sales.
Okay, fair.
Yeah.
What's one word your friends would use to describe you?
Locked in.
Fair.
Sorry, it's 2 words, but I'm locked in.
we'll add the hyphen to make it see. Most underrated skill a graduate should have?
Sales and marketing.
Fair. Biggest red flag on a job application?
Oof. Biggest red flag on a job application. Too quick of like a recruitment process. Like they're trying to get you to start like next week. It's like, what the hell? Like, yeah.
Fair.
Like no background check, no nothing. Just pull up.
So like my
yeah, exactly. Like literally what you described. Yeah, that.
Yeah, crazy still. What's your guilty pleasure TV show or movie?
I like watching Friends a lot. Okay. But I basically rotate. So like Friends, The Office, just that's what I watch again and again and again. Yeah, fair enough. I just watch. I can't commit to like new shows. It's really bad.
Really?
Yeah. I'm like really scared. It's just nah.
I kind of hear you, but
yeah, I just watch the same thing.
Just them two again and again.
Yeah, the typical. So Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Office, fair. Friends, just stuff that I know I've watched. I like familiar, but yeah.
Fair enough. If you could have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would it be?
Damn. I'm just gonna go ahead and say Steve Jobs, probably.
I'm sensing Steve Jobs is a big inspiration for you.
Yeah, he's a great guy, isn't it?
To be fair, I worked for Apple for 3.5 years. So
really? I thought you worked everywhere, haven't you?
Yeah, that was to be fair, Apple was a good place to work.
Yeah.
You kind of touched on something about this earlier. Email or phone call?
Oof. Wow. Like email. Yeah, email. Yeah, email.
Work from home or office vibes?
Oh my God. Can I say hybrid?
That's a cop out. That's a cop out. And last one, what's your go-to motivational quote or mantra?
You know what I'm gonna say.
Lock in.
Yeah, man. We'll say locked in.
Locked in. I like it. Nah, bro, thank you so much, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
I really enjoyed this. I enjoyed this, man.
Nah, I appreciate that. Before I let you go, where can people find you? Goodreads Corporate Steve.
Yeah, Goodreads Corporate Steve. Social media Corporate Steve. If you go on LinkedIn, type Beyond Education Steven, you'll find me. That's pretty much it. Honestly, if you just type Corporate Steve in any social media platform, you should find me. And then Beyond Education, I think we're ranking the top on SEO as well. Nice. Good. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. I really enjoyed it, bro.
Thank you, bro. Hey, brilliant. Guys, there we have it. Another episode in the bag. Stephen of Corporate Steve. Stephen of Beyond Education. There we go. Spilling the gems, dropping it all for us, giving us some exclusive takes as well that he's not shared with other people before. So would you look at that? But guys, I've been your host Spainy. This has been a Blackprint. Don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Tell a friend to tell a friend. We're trying to blow the community we're trying to grow the community of Black entrepreneurs, and so make sure you do all of the above. I will catch you on the next episode. As I said, it's been your host Spainy with my guest Stephen.
Yes, sir.
We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.
Bro, that was good. I really enjoyed that, bro.